Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Nuclear Throne. God, this one took a little bit of a while, but oh well. So, the game itself is actually quite simple. We've got a lot of settings to go through actually, so you can actually turn down a fair few kinds of volume. And you can even change your crosshair if you feel like. It doesn't make that much of a difference. And even the side art. Might be best to turn it to none, but personally I prefer 7 just because it's red. And you can also turn down the screen shake and the freeze frames. I'm gonna put... okay, I didn't see that. So let's just turn this down. I'm gonna put this all back to the default way it is, except for the aim assist, because the aim assist is actually very useful, and I'll explain why. The auto aim, I should say. So this game's a twin-stick shooter, so auto aim is actually pretty important. And the game, by default, has 0 auto aim. So I'll turn it down to 0 auto aim. Thankfully, I can change this in-game. And we can even change what stick we aim with, which is actually something you don't see very often. You can also come down here to change all your different controls and all that. It's pretty good. And I didn't actually see that. Vibration on. What's vibrating? I don't even know. We can also come down to my stats to see what I've been doing. I've been playing for about an hour and a half, as you can see, and my best runs there, my kills, my runs, and my deaths. I'm surprised that I managed to do 22 runs and 21 deaths, but alright, you can even see how I'm doing with every particular character. My personal favorite character is Crystal, but for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to play... Actually, I should turn that tutorial back off. So, I'm going to play the normal. For some reason, there's no daily and weeklies yet. Maybe that just means I haven't played through them yet. Anyway, we'll go normal, and as we can see, every character has a different ability, which is quite nice. But due to the fact that this game's... games tend to last anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, I'm gonna pick a random pretty much every time, and whenever you pick a random and then retry a run, you get a new random character, so I'll be able to play as all of them. So, we get the fish right off who can roll, and every character in this game has their own unique set of abilities, and I'll explain each one of them as I die and move on to the next character in turn. So this is Nuclear Throne. It's a twin-stick shooter. I would say it's a top-down shooter, but it's not really. It's a sort of side-on thing, but it works about the same way. You move your stick in a circular direction and you fire in whatever direction you're pointing in. It would be top-down. If you change the art to be top-down, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. But anyway, so the idea of Nuclear Throne is that it's a shooter, obviously, and you have to kill every enemy on the level in order to get to the next level. When you've killed all the enemies, the portal will appear. Quite explosively, by the way. You can pick up all sorts of different weapons from weapon crates, and the enemies will also tend to drop them. But there are some benefits to not picking up every weapon crate you see. So if you leave them for just long enough, well, if you leave them for a stage, you'll probably get better crates later on. And considering that the main pistol is more than enough to get you through at least the first set of levels, it's usually a good idea just to rely on weapon drops that the enemies drop and the ammo drops that the enemies drop for the first couple of levels at least. Once you get to like level 3, it's a good idea to start getting as many powerful weapons as possible. So we'll just finish off the level here. The levels are indeed very short and procedurally generated. They only last like 30 seconds. And those green things I was picking up were rads. Pick up enough of them, you level up, and you can get a mutation. I just got a mutation, so I now get more HP from medkits. And there are a bunch of different mutations, and there are also a bunch of character-exclusive ones too. So there is a fair amount of There is a fair amount of variety in the game. Whoops. Ow. Yep, as I said, the games can be very short. So if I hit retry, I'll be given a different enemy. This character, I should say. This character is a hell of a lot different because he's very weak. He'll usually die in like one shot, but he's got a special ability. He can blow up every corpse that's dead. That's kind of amazing, but anyway. So yeah, game's very short. At the end of some levels, you do end up fighting against a gigantic boss, and the bosses are somewhat tough to defeat, but they've all got specific patterns and specific ways of behaving that can either be completely and utterly destroyed via the use of... That's a wrench. I'll take it because I already opened the crate. I don't really have much of a problem anyway. Those enemies can generally just be, you know, buffeted with explosions until they die, or they do actually have patterns. It's not like they're completely random, so they're actually pretty easy to defeat. Screw you, bastard. So the game is quite difficult. It is very fast and it is very, very difficult. I have only reached level 5, and that's with Crystal. And Crystal is actually a really good, like, beginner character, because what Crystal does is that whenever you press the L button, which is your active ability, you actually go into a crystal form, and the crystal form actually protects you from most forms of damage. Explosions will still probably kill ya, but everything else... Yeah, see that? Boom. Everything else will be deflected, so you can actually get pretty far from... I don't really like the majority of these, so I'll hit mutate later. I'm allowed to mutate again anyway, oh well. Probably leveled up twice. Big corpse explosions, why not? And assault rifle, because I like the assault rifle better than the machine gun. 3-round burst, and it's generally more powerful. Nonetheless. So the game's got a lot of different weapons, and there are 5 ammo types that you can pick a lot of ammo from. So that you can carry ammo for each. Oh god. There he is. Right. So let's actually beat this guy, shall we? There we go. Let's grab the HP and move on. So the game is very difficult, and it will take you a very long time to learn all the enemies' patterns and how to avoid them, and especially when you're working with a character like Crystal, things are fairly easy, but when you're working with a character like this guy who basically dies in one shot, it's pretty hard, I must say. Especially with some of the procedural levels, like the game... Well, the game doesn't have a tendency to actively screw you, but sometimes... Ow. Sometimes it can do specific things that may just end up annoying you. Like, spawning you next to an enemy. Like, you are safe as long as you don't move. As soon as you move, you're screwed. And if you move while... If you move while the game's loading, well, tough fucking luck. And sometimes it just has a tendency not to spawn stuff for you, like ammo or particularly good weapons, and sometimes you just end up having a bad run. But thankfully, considering the game is... It isn't so hard that it's incredibly frustrating. It's frustrating, don't get me wrong, but it's not incredibly frustrating. It's not turn the game off frustrating. And especially since you can just jump into another run right there and then, it's actually pretty good about keeping you interested. Now this guy here, since I didn't explain his ability, they all do have a passive ability, I just can't remember them off the top of my head. There's like 12 different characters too, so there's a lot of variety. But yeah, if this guy, if you hold the L button, he will use telekinesis, which means he can draw enemies in and objects in. So if you've got something like... I can't pick up that laser pistol, I can't, the ammo is too sparse. When you've got, shit, I completely lost my train of thought there, I'm so sorry. But when you've got that amount of variety, it's got a lot for you to go and do, and especially trying to beat the game with every character, that's a hell of a thing. And you've also got things like crowns that show up. If you're really good at playing the game, you'll often find a portal, and if you're good enough to turn on that portal and then fill it with the radiation that enemies drop, it'll actually take you on to a special level which will let you pick a crown, which will make the game even more harder, which is brilliant. And there are plenty of other special things to go find as well. Hell, the game is actually so hard that I haven't even reached level 6 yet, and unlocking half the characters means you have to hit level 6. So, the game has a lot of variety hidden behind it. More speed, most hit bullets. I'll take this one, why not? However, there is an active downside to this, in that the game's difficulty is actually, like, a bit of a... I wouldn't say it's a deterrent, but I mean... Oh god, this is gonna be hell. The game's difficulty means that, again, you can't really unlock half the stuff that's in it until you're, like, capable of getting to, like, stage 4, 5, or 6, without dying, which is a hell of a thing to do, I must say. And considering that the majority of the game's characters and secrets and all that are hidden back there, the game can get very repetitive very quickly, especially if you suck at these sorts of games. Like, considering that, imagine someone who just has to, like, repeat the first few levels over and over and over and over and over again because they just have the unlucky tendency to suck at these games, and they just end up having to play, like, through levels 1 through 3 over and over and over and over and over. And they just, you know, they eventually get really bored because the game appears really repetitive. And their credit, the game probably is that repetitive. I'm not that bad at this because I played a fair amount of it back when it first came out on early access, but at the same time, I'm still not the best at it either. I'm still, you know, going through, like, I'm still having trouble getting past level 4. So, yeah, level 4 is actually a bit of a bitch. It takes away so much ammo. But yeah, the game is relatively repetitive, especially if you're not very good at it, because you do have to go through these first levels over and over and over again. The game, it is quite short, like, don't get me wrong, the shortness of the levels doesn't make it so bad, but it's still worth mentioning, especially in a game that you have to play over and over again in order to get better at, so I don't know, blame it like half on the developers for locking half the characters behind a bloody level 5 and 6, and blame it on the player who isn't that good at it. Alright? Just don't blame people for thinking it's competitive when to be fair, it really, really is. Especially if you suck at it like I do. I'm probably going to be able to show you level 3, I just need to be a little bit more careful about how I do this. There we go. Oh god, there's more down there. Just keep firing, get the med kit. Shit expires after a while if you're not quick enough to pick it up. Except for weapons. Weapons don't expire. I'll just grab the ammo crate. More bullets. I was hoping for more shotgun shells, but whatever. Admittedly, the variety comes like in the characters, because the characters' abilities do mean you go through the post-apocalyptic wasteland in completely different ways. Like, there is one character who is capable of simply eating weapons for ammunition. Oh god, there we go. And there are all sorts of, like, little strategies you can apply with every character and every weapon in the game, because there are a lot of different weapons. There are things like heavy crossbows, there are things like lots of really cool energy weapons, there's miniguns, there's all sorts of interesting stuff that shows up from time to time. Ow. Oh, that was painful. Crystal, hooray, I might actually stand a chance. But yeah, as I said before, Crystal has the crystal form, and if she goes into crystal form... Oh, I got a crossbow too, that's actually pretty useful. If she goes in crystal form, she'll reflect bullets and avoid most forms of damage. And that's very useful indeed. Might as well talk about the game's technical performance. It runs at a steady 30 FPS most of the time. Like, there are sections where there'll be a lot of, like, explosions going on. Like, when you beat the boss of the third area, it tends to die in a really big explosion, and I've beaten that guy about 3 times, and all 3 times I've beaten that guy, his explosion has literally dropped the game's frame rate to 0. The game has literally just stopped dead in its tracks every time I've beaten that guy, and good lord, can that get annoying. I must say, ow. Ow. Because it just stops dead, especially when you're trying to avoid stuff that's going on. Like, you can still hear the sound going in the background too, which is quite an oddity, but don't have any bullets. Great. I'm going to turn the auto-aim back up because I actually really like the auto-aim, and you've seen how it works without the auto-aim, which is not bad, but I prefer keeping the auto-aim up at maximum because it actually really helps you auto-aim, and again, if the auto-aim is too strong for you personally, you can just turn it down, or turn it off entirely, because it's actually quite... I love doing that, just reflecting one enemy's bullets back on another enemy and killing it instantly. That's just amazing. Oh, damn. I was hoping to look around the area a bit more, but I guess not. So yeah, the game's performance isn't fantastic. It also does have a tendency to drop every now and again, just at somewhat random times. I mean, a lot tends to have to go on for the game's frame rate to... God damn it. I'd rather take damage from that than from, you know, having to go up against that big bad guy, though. I'm hoping there's a good weapon crate around here somewhere, or just some ammo, or... Oh god, I'm probably gonna die. upgrade. Yeah, he just had to pop up out of nowhere and I died. So yeah, as you can see, game's relatively repetitive if you aren't careful about dying, because you do have to go through all this stuff again and again. But yeah, the game's performance isn't fantastic by any means. It will tend to die on you a lot if you're not... It will tend to slow down on you a lot, and you will tend to die from it sometimes if you're unlucky. But it's not that bad, and, you know, other than the one that happens at the end of the third boss, the third level boss, which makes it relatively hard to continue onwards, it can get quite annoying from time to time. Where's the last enemy? Gotta be around here somewhere. There they are. I'm just gonna walk over this because it'll let me get all this heals. There we go, and portal. Half the time the portal, well, not half the time, but some of the time, the portal doesn't even appear, like, right there. It doesn't appear on the final enemy. It's supposed to appear on the final enemy. Sometimes it'll just appear randomly in a completely different place, which is kind of strange. But otherwise, the game's high-speed action and lots of unlockable stuff make it pretty enjoyable outside of being relatively repetitive from time to time. And once you get better at it, it'll show you its secrets even more, but oh, damn it, I really suck at aiming this grenade launcher. There we go. I wish I had a different weapon to work with at the moment. This is the downside of... Oh, God. This is the downside of not taking the weapon crates early on. Trust me, that was worth it. I'm trying to avoid dying from... Boom. There we go. You die next. I'm gonna go grab this. And here we go. Damn, almost leveled up there. Would have been nice to have, but I got a grenade launcher, so I should be able to take out this guy alright. The game's high-speed action is really enjoyable, though, and as I said before, it is that sort of game which is, like, frustrating, but not frustrating enough to make you want to turn it off. God damn it. I'll give it one more run and then we'll end the video off. And the Vita port is pretty good. You know, outside of having a vibration option for some bloody reason, it is a pretty good port nonetheless. You know, customizable controls, volume levels are fine. And it runs okay. Not fantastically, but it runs okay. And the auto-aim option actually works. It's not like Alien Shooter, that bloody game, where the auto-aim was absolutely necessary to actually enjoy that game. No, it's not necessary here. And it's actually very heavily tweakable, which is quite nice considering the Vita's analog sticks and their limited range of motion makes it pretty hard to aim sometimes, so having an auto-aim that can be tweaked like that is actually really good. So yeah, overall, pretty good port, pretty fun game, heavy on the action, little bit heavy on the repetitiveness too, but you know, if you're willing to take the time to get good at it, it will reveal to you its fantastic secrets. And hopefully they'll update it along the lines of the PC version, or at least to a point where they'll update it with the PC version stuff from time to time. And I have to admit, I really like the art style too, especially on the character select screen with all the different characters. That's actually pretty great. I don't know, maybe one of these days I will reach the nuclear throne. I actually really like the pop gun, but unfortunately I did not manage to pick it up before he forced me into a corner. Got it. He hit me once, but I got him. See, the pop gun's actually pretty useful because it bounces all over the freaking place, so... It's one of those guns where you can aim and really don't need to worry about missing. Pop gun. Unfortunately, it does less damage overall, but oh well. Grab all the health, grab the ammo, because I need the ammo, leave the weapon crate. This is actually going pretty well. This might go pretty far. There we go. That did level up. What have I got? Extra chest. I'll take extra chest. Bloodlust isn't usually that useful, but okay. And there's an SMG on the ground here, but actually, no, I will take the SMG. Ow. Ow. Bugger off. Probably should have taken Bloodlust now I think about it. Yeah, Nuclear Throne's pretty great. It's fun. It's a pretty good port. It controls fine thanks to the effort of the auto aim and all that. And it will probably take most reasonable people a sizable amount of time to get through. Saw that. Grab that, but I will avoid that weapon crate. Hopefully I get something interesting on the 3rd level. Where is the last one? There he is. Grab the experience. There we go. Full HP and some ammo. More HP and ammo drops is better. Alright, here we go. I'll swap to this just for now, because if I do this... Yeah, you can see the frame rate drop there. Now imagine that, but like 3 times as bad, and you've got how bad it gets once you beat the 3rd level boss. Maybe I'll be able to show it to you if I'm not completely terrible, but this is me we're talking about. Completely Terrible is my middle name. Blue, Completely Terrible Maxima. That's my... Yep. So that was a quick look at Nuclear Throne. The port's fine, mostly, at least as far as I can tell. And it's a fun time to begin with. I love this. I love these... Just... That's great. I love that. I love the art. But yep. This has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.